I'm going to call the meeting of the Board of Aldermen to order on Tuesday, April 23rd, 2024 at 7:40 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chamber. The prayer will be offered by City Clerk Dan Healy, and Alderman Jetty will lead us in the pledge to the flag.
Almighty God, we have the high honor and the serious duty to manage the affairs of our beloved city. Fill us, O God, with a spirit of unity and understanding, which enables us to face our multiple problems with a serene mind, with justice and charity for all, so that any and all decisions made by us will always be for the betterment and greater happiness of all our fellow citizens. So help us God. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance, please.
Alderman O'Brien.
Present.
Alderwoman Timmons.
Here.
Alderman Moran. Alderman Thibodeau.
Here.
Alderman Govea.
Here.
Alderman Lopez. Alderman Sullivan.
here.
Alderman Clemens.
Here.
Alderman Senate. Alderman Jetty.
Here.
Alderman Tebow.
Here.
Alderman Clee.
Here.
Alderman Dowd.
Present.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Here.
Alderman Wilshire.
Here.
12 present, 3 absent.
Thank you. Also joining us this evening is Mayor Jim Donchis and Corporation Counsel Steve Bolton. Mayor, did you wish to address the board this evening?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Well, first, I'd like to thank the Historical Society for the presentation. They do provide a great service to the city, and more people should, I believe, visit and take advantage of everything that they have to offer. But I wanted to mention a few things that you'll be seeing tonight, Madam President. Under suspension of the rules, you will be getting the development agreement for the Mohawk Tannery. This has been years in development. Some people here, I'm sure, recall the tannery and when it was operational, the problems it caused with the odors, the flies in the Little Florida neighborhood and the surrounding neighborhoods. The site has remained polluted for the last 40 years, and now there is a chance to achieve a cleanup as well as the development of some much-needed housing. But I know this will get referred to committee, will require a lot of discussion. It is coming in for the first time tonight. You might have noticed over the last couple of days that the work began on the Riverfront project with the initial work being done at Renaissance Park. That's just in the last couple of days, and over the course of this year, there will be a lot accomplished, but the whole project will take more than just this year, but will help us as a community to enjoy more fully our body of water, after which the city is named. We are a river city, and that is, of course, the natural river. You will see also that I have appointed Dawn Enright as the treasurer tax collector of the city. She will, of course, come to personnel for an interview, and you'll see her resume. She is currently the treasurer tax collector for the city of Concord, and has been such for quite a few years. She previously worked here in the city, downstairs, so she has a lot of experience. There probably isn't a person in New Hampshire more qualified than Ms. Enright, having been the treasurer tax collector for Concord. And so I'm very glad to be making her appointment. CFO Griffin and others have interviewed her at length, and I believe you will find that she'll be a very good fit for the position. And finally, I wanted to mention the High Street lofts, which were opened a couple of months ago. They report that they're filling up more quickly than they expected, and they just confirm that there's a lot of demand for downtown housing here in Nashua. So I believe over the next few months we'll see that apartment complex fully occupied, which will add 150, 200, 250 people to our downtown neighborhood. And with that, I will conclude, Madam President.
Thank you, Mayor. Responses to the remarks by the mayor? Seeing none? Recognition period.
None.
Reading minutes of previous meetings. There being no objection, I'll declare the minutes of the special and regular Board of Aldermen meetings of March 25th, March 26th, 2024 be accepted, placed on file, and the reading suspended. Communications requiring only procedural actions and written reports from liaisons.
Communication has been received from Lisa Photo, Public Works Director, regarding referrals from Board of Aldermen R-24-026. Communication has been received from Mayor Jim Donchis regarding veto of R-24-015.
There being no objection, I'll accept the communications and place them on file. Period for public comment relative to items expected to be acted upon this evening. We have 6 people signed up. The first one is Rick Standish. So if you could give your name and name and address for the record, and you have a 3-minute period. Thank you.
My name's Rick Standish. I live in Ward 9. Is that sufficient for my address?
We do ask for your address, but
19 Apple Tree Green.
thank you.
I want to thank you for providing this opportunity for concerned citizens to express opinions on the selection of library trustees. Transparency is a hallmark of a democratic society. I have no reason to believe that this meeting is being held for any reason other than the edification and to give voice to the citizens of Nashua. I'm a father of 4 successful adults who were homeschooled as children. Libraries filled an important role in our homeschool curriculum. We relied on the resources available at the library to fill gaps in our curriculum. We also availed ourselves of the other services. We used the library meeting rooms for homeschooler group meetings, and we also availed ourselves of the discounted tickets to events and museums, and festivals. The role of libraries has changed to some degree since our family's homeschooling experience. The reality is the role of many public institutions are changing. In many instances, these changes are not a reflection of the public or their community, and more a reflection of a national movement or agenda. I believe that making the library trustees an elected
1 minute.
body with shorter terms will only benefit our community. It will result in a body that better reflects the needs of the public library and community. That's it.
Thank you. Christy Hart.
Hello, I'm Christy Hart on 9 Dustin Drive, Ward 8. I was surprised to learn that the Library Board of Trustees are appointed rather than elected. There's a sense of obligation when you're asked by someone to hold a position. This doesn't mean they can't do their job well, but it does mean that Nashua is missing out on a greater, more diverse collection of people who have a passion towards the growth and development of our public library. That's the energy Nashua should be looking for in all positions that are so interactive with our community. The homepage of the Nashua Public Library website reads, "A connected community begins here," yet no one on the board is elected by their community. Since it's a place where we can gather for a wide variety of services and programs, it seems only logical that those who hold positions on the board be held accountable for the state trajectory, for the state and trajectory of our library in the form of a public election. Lastly, I believe that updating our selection process for the Library Board of Trustees will only yield positive results. An election for this position would create excitement and discussion about our library, especially during election season, which will in turn bring more people to the facility and find Nashua more candidates that adapt and change with the needs of our great city. Please pass this amendment to the city charter so that we can modernize our approach and unlock the full potential of what the Nashua Public Library can achieve. Thank you.
Thank you. Taylor Mann?
Alderman and Mayor, my name is Taylor. I live in Ward 1, 8 Souhegan Drive. I've been going to the National Public Library my whole life, and I now take my kids there. As a mom with kids, the library is really one of the only places I go to find community when the rest of the world is online. So I found it disappointing that other libraries in the area have a better, more welcoming community for families. It's unfortunate because the library is in a great location downtown on the river, and it could be a much safer and more inviting place. I don't want to take my kids to neighboring towns' libraries. I want to take them to the National Public Library, but it hasn't improved in the 25 years I've been going. I've spoken to a lot of people with similar views, and they feel they cannot do anything to solve that. They are correct. The management of the library is not a democratic process. We have no way to vote for people who share our vision of what the library should be. People interested in taking leadership position have no path to do that other than winning favor with the mayor. It would benefit everyone to have the library be a more democratic institution. We should be able to vote for people that share a similar vision for the library, and if they don't do it, we should be able to vote them out. As Nashua becomes a more diverse city, this will naturally give new demographics representation. Under today's system, if someone is interested in taking a trustee position at the library, they have no path to do that other than winning favor with the mayor. A democratic process allows people who don't want to play politics to run for the position. Bringing it to vote expands the pool of candidates to those who don't have the time for politics and just care simply about the library. Trust me when I say there are many of those people out there. I think it's fair to say the world is changing around us at an increasingly rapid pace. Demographics are shifting, technology is evolving, knowledge is expanding. We're all so blessed to live at this point in time, in this wonderful place. Unfortunately, the National Public Library has barely changed since the 90s. Perhaps this is due to the library trustees serving terms nearly twice as long as the mayor, when the state of New Hampshire recommends 2-year terms. Or perhaps this is due to the disconnect between library leadership and its constituents. Maybe it's neither of those, and we'll find out when some new ideas come out of its new leaders. The only way to know is by doing something different because it's clear that the current approach doesn't work. I think it's time for something new by voting to pass this change to the city charter. Thank you.
Linda Laflamme?
Hello, Linda Laflamme, 49 Abbott Street, and Chair of the Nashua Library Board of Trustees. I respectfully disagree and would urge you to reject RS 24048, the proposal to select library trustees by citywide election. And I'm going to give you a little picture of how library trustees are actually chosen. The current method appointment is by a joint commission of the boards of aldermen and trustees, and this enables the thoughtful crafting of a balanced board membership. This would be difficult, if not impossible, to ensure through a general election. Opening the seats to election potentially opens the board to partisanship and political maneuvering, and attracting those who are more interested in launching their own public careers than they are in the actual library itself. To me, that doesn't sound like a change for the better. On the other hand, the trustees take great care in selecting the candidates brought to joint convention. The board's goal is to find individuals who not only believe in the ideals and the importance of the library and its role in the community, but who also complement the knowledge base and skill sets of the current members and who bring diverse conversations and voices to our table, and who have the impartiality to put library and community needs above personal preferences. For example, with renovations to the plaza and the building coming up, The board might look for candidates with engineering, contracting, fundraising experience to complement the other board members around the table. We have education, we have fiscal, we have legal, we have publishing, technology, but we could use some help fundraising. Over the years, candidate searches have involved trustee networking, suggestions from community groups, from aldermen,
1 minute.
yes, from mayors, as well as screening volunteers at nonprofit expos and fielding questions at the Leadership Greater Nashua Seminar. Have these methods resulted in long-serving trustees? Yes, but that provides a stability and a store of institutional knowledge that offers continuity and context to decisions and helps to grow a deeper understanding of library needs and community connections. Has a joint convention always appointed the best candidates? No. Some were unable to
30
prioritize the
seconds.
library with as much time and effort as we'd hoped. Some left because they were just too busy with the skill sets that brought them there. But turnover helps bring fresh perspectives to the table. So is the current selection process perfect? None is. And still, I believe the joint convention method gives Nashua the best chance for a balanced, equitable, and effective Board of Trustees to oversee the library in its service to the community. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Caitlin West.
Caitlin West, 34 Elgin Street. I know I'm one of the last ones to speak about this, so I'll spare you some time and not reiterate what everyone else has said. But I do think this is something that should strongly be considered. Having an elected position helps the library that relies on the current interests of Nashua citizens to benefit by keeping up with the current wants and needs of Nashua without falling back into old patterns and interests. Yeah, I think this is something that would be really beneficial for everyone involved, including the library itself, and I think it could definitely bring in more people if we have people who understand what Nashua wants and needs right now. Thank you.
Paul Bergeron.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the Board of Aldermen, my name is Paul Bergeron, 15 Stansted Place here in Nashua. I'm a resident of Ward 2, and I'm speaking on Resolution 24-048 pertaining to the Library Board of Trustees. The resolution would change the way the library trustees are elected. Instead of being elected during a joint meeting of the Board of Aldermen and the Board of Library Trustees, the election of trustees would appear on the city ballot. To amend the city charter, the Board of Aldermen must first vote to determine that an amendment is necessary under state law. So when the legislation is taken up tonight, the board will be asked to vote on a motion that will include words to the effect that the board finds that the amendment is necessary. And I would argue that it's not. City government is different from town governments. Towns do elect library trustees, as well as budget committees, planning board members, zoning board members, trustees of trust funds, and so on. In the cities, the authority to elect members to these and many other boards and commissions is vested in the Board of Aldermen or a city council. When I looked at the boards and commissions volunteer form on the city website, I counted 37 boards and commissions for which the city seeks applications of interest, including the library trustees. I can't even begin to imagine how the city might manage the election of candidates to that many boards and commissions by ballot in the same way towns do, so that they could be elected by the community. During my 16 years as city clerk and 7 more as a library trustee, the Board of Aldermen always concurred with the nominations submitted by the trustees. However, they don't have to. If an alderman feels that another person was more qualified or might fit the needs of the community, he or she could have nominated other candidates, and then the Board of Aldermen, in conjunction with the library trustees, would elect one of those nominees to serve as a trustee. I feel that the Library Board of Trustees has done a good job trying to diversify its membership in terms of ethnicity, age, and career experience, but I have serious doubts that after this first election, a diverse field of candidates would emerge to file this office, knowing that they'd have to run a citywide political campaign for the position. For more than 100 years, library trustees have been elected during a joint convention of the Board of Aldermen and the Library of Trustees. I don't believe that a change in the way that election conducted is necessary at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Communications requiring final approval.
Communication has been received from John J. Bosver, Chief Executive Officer and Chief Engineer of Pennachuck, regarding notice of annual meeting of sole shareholders in proxy statement, proxy card, and annual report to the sole shareholder.
Alderman Clee.
Thank you, Madam President. I motion to recommend that the sole shareholder appoint John J. Boisvert or Donald L. Ware as proxies to represent and vote as designated hereon all shares of common stock of Pennachuck Corporation, and to elect Scott A. Cody, Ronald J. Huell, and Sarah Pillsbury to the Pennachuck Corporation Board of Directors as Class C directors, each for a 3-year term and until their successors are elected and qualified, and to authorize the mayor to transmit by proxy card the vote of the sole shareholders to the Board of Directors of Pennachuck Corporation by roll call.
You've heard the motion. Discussion on that motion? I'd like to ask a question. Was the roll call put on here for someone zooming in, or? Okay, we'll take a roll call. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderwoman Timmons.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Govea.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Bless you.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes,
12 yeas, 0 nays.
that motion carries.
Communication has been received from Mayor Jim Donchis regarding tax increment finance development program, Sea and Shore Contracting.
Alderman Govea.
Page, my apologies. Thank you, Madam President. I move to approve amendment number 1 to expand the scope of service and amend the budget related to the boardwalk construction on the riverfront project with Sea and Shore Contracting in the amount of $1,489,275. Funding will be through 183 Economic Development Fund 81700 Infrastructure Improvement / Riverfront TIF Fund. And do we need a roll call on that now?
Don't believe so. No. Okay. You've heard the motion. Is there discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
Communication has been received from Mayor Jim Donchis regarding tax increment finance development program, the Dottie Group.
Alderwoman Timmons.
Thank you, Madam President. Move to approve and place on file a multi-year contract for landscaping and maintenance services for the riverfront with the Dottie Group in an amount of $252,126 annually. Funding will be through Department 183 Economic Development Fund 55699. Other contracted services, riverfront TIF fund by roll call. Oh, do we have to do a roll call?
No.
No.
You've heard the motion. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Petitions,
None.
nominations, appointments, and elections.
Animal and Dog Park Advisory Committee, Alyssa O'Mara, new appointment, term to expire May 14th, 2027, 2 Bruce Street, Unit 2, Nashua, New Hampshire, 03064. Nashua Arts Commission, Eleanor Luna, new appointment, term to expire May 14th, 2027, 26 Sergeants Avenue, Nashua, New Hampshire, 03064. Lindsay Rinaldi, reappointment, term to expire April 1st, 2027, 705 Belmont Street, Belmont, Mass. 02478. Nashua Riverfront TIF Committee, Eric Druart, reappointment, term to expire September 30th, 2025, 52 Main Street, Unit 206, Nashua, New Hampshire, 03064. Treasurer Tax Collector Don Enright, term to expire indefinite, 16 Chase Road, Londonderry, New Hampshire, 03053.
There being no objection, I will accept the appointments by the mayor as read and refer them to the Personnel Administrative Affairs Committee. Reports of committees. There being no objection, I'll declare the report of the March 19th, 2024 Planning and Economic Development Committee be accepted and placed on file. There being no objection, I'll declare the reports of the March 20th, 2024 and April 3rd, 2024 Finance Committee be accepted and placed on file. There being no objection, I will declare the report of the March 27th, 2024 Committee on Infrastructure Working Group be accepted and placed on file. There being no objection, I will declare the report of the March 27th Committee on Infrastructure be accepted and placed on file. There being no objection, I will declare the report of the April 2nd, 2024 Ad Hoc Capital Debt Committee to be accepted and placed on file. There being no objection, I will suspend the rules to allow for the oral report of the Budget Review Committee held last night, Monday night, April 22nd, 2024, regarding proposed resolution R2434. Alderman Dowd.
Yes, this resolution is regarding the scoreboard for Doobie Field. It was passed unanimously by the Budget Committee, and when it's introduced later, Alderman Sullivan will give a very detailed report on what it involves.
Thank you. Confirmation of mayor's appointments.
None.
Unfinished business resolutions.
Third reading of R-24-015, relative to the supplemental appropriation of $150,000 of assigned fund balance into Department 128, Risk Management, account 89650, transfer to Property and Casualty Self-Insurance Fund.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to move to reconsider Resolution R2415. Roll call? Need the roll call? I think we need the roll call. Okay.
Is there discussion on the reconsideration? Seeing none?
Well, point of order.
Alderman Clemens.
Can a member of the board who has voted in favor of a resolution reconsider it? That's through you to Corporation Counsel.
That is the only one who can.
Give me a minute, please.
Could I address this for a moment, Madam President? The reason I vetoed is that this shouldn't have passed. The money isn't required, and I think someone tried to get the message to you before the last meeting, but somehow that didn't happen, so the money, they don't need the money, and they thought they did, but now they don't. So I would suggest voting against reconsideration, just leave it the way it is.
The motion for reconsideration has to be made by a member who voted with the majority.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
And that was you.
Yes.
So we can
Okay.
proceed.
So the motion is to reconsider Resolution 2415 by roll call. Would the clerk call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
No.
Alderwoman Timmons.
No.
Alderman Thibodeau.
No.
Alderman Gobea.
No.
Alderman Sullivan.
No.
Alderman Clemens.
No.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
No.
Alderman Clee.
No.
Alderman Dowd,
No.
Alderwoman Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire.
No.
2 yeas, 10 nays.
So that motion fails. Okay. What do we need to do at this point?
Next resolution.
Okay, that's it. We're done with that. Okay. Resolution, okay. Mr. Clerk?
Second reading of R-24-034, relative to the acceptance of a scoreboard for Doobie Field at St. Andrews Park, donated to the city by Nashua Cal Ripken.
Alderman Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a motion for final passage of Resolution R-24-034, and I would like to speak to it, please.
Alderman Sullivan.
Thank you. As my colleague from Ward 2 mentioned, last night, we unanimously passed this resolution. I co-sponsored this along with Mayor Donchis and also Alderman Tebow from Ward 8. So we were able to make this donation from Nashua Cal Ripken Baseball possible. Nashua Cal Ripken Baseball plays a lot of games over at Doobie Field off of Harris Road, right in the heart of Ward 9. A lot of you remember just a couple of years ago, we redid the playground. Nashua Cal Ripken Baseball does a fantastic job on upkeep of that field. They also did all the fundraising for this scoreboard. So there is no cost to the city. We're simply accepting this as a donation. They do a lot of work with the Nashua Parks and Rec, and they've done a lot of work, they meaning Nashua Cal Ripken Baseball, on upkeep of the field. This also passed the Board of Public Works unanimously as well, and I think that covers it. Oh, one more thing is, the reason they need it is there's a scoreboard over there already. It's 30 years old, doesn't work, so they need a new one. There's a lot of teams that play not just in Nashua, but outside of Nashua, so this reflects well on the city for those that come here, so thank you.
Motion is for final passage. Alderman Tebow.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a couple things. Thank you to Alderman Sullivan for getting this going and Mayor Donchis. Yeah, I mean, I played there, or I didn't play there. I coached there, and that scoreboard has been useless for a long, long time. So this will attract, tournaments to play there because they have an actual scoreboard. So that just brings in more people into the city, and thankfully more people into Ward 9. So thank you, and should hopefully go right through.
Further discussion? Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to commend the aldermen that were involved with this. I think it's important that we in this chamber support youth sports, whatever it is. And coming from Ward 9 myself, saw the deterioration of the scoreboard. And so I think this is wise. I'm going to definitely enthusiastically support it. Hopefully the concession stand opens up. There's nothing like a fresh hot dog in a ball game.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries, and Resolution 2434 is declared duly adopted.
Second reading of R-24-037, relative to the acceptance of $1,532,092 from United States Department of Housing and Urban Development into Public Health and Community Services Grant Activity, HOPWA, Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a motion for final passage of R-34037.
Motion is for final passage. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries, and Resolution 2437 is declared duly adopted.
Second reading of R-24-038, relative to the acceptance and appropriation of grant funds pursuant to Contract Amendment Number 2 in the amount of $863,794 from the State of New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services into various public health and community service grant activities.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a motion for final passage of Resolution R 24-038 by roll call. Is the roll call pursuant to Charter Section 49.
You've heard the motion. Is there discussion on that motion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderwoman Timmons.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Govea.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wiltshire.
Yes.
12 yeas, 0 nays.
That motion carries, and Resolution 2434 is declared duly adopted.
Second reading of R-24-043, approving the annual action plan for the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, in home investment partnerships, home programs for fiscal year 2025.
Alderman Govea?
Thank you, Madam President. I move to table Resolution R-24-043 until the May 14th Board of Aldermen meeting.
The motion is to table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries, and Resolution 2434 is tabled until the May 14th meeting.
Second reading of R-24-044, authorizing the filing of applications and execution of grant agreements with the U.S. Department of Transportation for grants under the Urban Mass Transportation Act of 1964, as amended for fiscal years 2025 and 2026.
Alderman Clemmons?
Thank you, Madam President. I would move for final passage of Resolution 2444.
Motion is for final passage. Discussion on that motion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries, and Resolution 2444 is declared duly adopted. Okay. Unfinished business ordinances.
None.
New business resolutions.
First reading of R-24-048, proposing an amendment to the city charter relative to electing the library board of trustees.
Alderman Govea, in this motion, there is a word that needs to not be in the motion, and the word is if.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Yep, so I'm going to make a motion to determine it's necessary to move forward with proposing an amendment to the city's charter relative to electing the library board of trustees by roll call. I'd like to speak to that motion.
Alderman Govea.
Thank you, Madam President. So obviously we all sat through the early public comment we had where we had some members of the public talking about this potential change to the charter. It was brought up to Alderman Sullivan as Alderman Thibodeau to my other side, all signed on with me here. So to go over it, it's a little bit confusing how the phase out and the phase in would happen. But in a nutshell, assuming this passes and it would go on the November 2025 municipal election, if it passed to that, assuming it passes, May of 2026, we would appoint one trustee to a usual 7-year term. May 2027, we would appoint one more to a usual seven-year term. And then you would have the 4 trustees with the shortest remaining terms would have their term expire December 31, 2027. And then November 2027, you would elect 4 trustees. You would have 3 remaining. They would phase out 2029. You would have the final 3 get elected. So it has a slow phase out to, and the reason we really looked at that was to ensure that anybody on the board could help a smooth transferability period. It wasn't something we wanted to just jump into and say, all right, everybody's term's ending tomorrow. Let's elect in a brand new board. That just wouldn't make sense, and I don't feel would be in the best interest of the library. So when looking at this, and what I really found was by electing a library board of trustees, it would ensure there's accountability, so representation that it is for the people and by the people, elected by the people. They'd have independence and a long-term vision, and I think a lot of that goes hand in hand. I'm sure change is hard. Change is very hard. And honestly, I didn't expect anybody from the Library Board of Trustees to agree with this charter change. As I'm sure, whenever we decided to come up with electing a fire commissioner or a Board of Public Works, there was a lot of the same objections. Well, you know, it's going to be hard to find people who aren't in a strong suit area. Well, I think what this does is this gets the conversation starting in our neighborhoods. It gets people out in the community talking about the library. It brings buzz to the library. It makes it so people don't wonder who runs the library. It's out there. It's elected by us. It gives the public that arm of accountability to say, all right, well, if you're not holding your end of the bargain, just like all of us in the aldermanic chamber to their ward, well, we can elect you out. It's as simple as that, Madam President. This change will get people talking about the library and its future. And with that kind of wraps up kind of my short talking period here. I don't want to kind of over talk on it. It's simple. It's kind of one of those things you're either going to agree with or disagree with. If I could, I'd like to pass it over to Alderman Sullivan. I know we split up talking points, so we both didn't repeat the same thing.
Okay, Alderman Sullivan.
Thank you very much. Not to reiterate too much, but this got my attention when we were going through the Board of Health situation. And when I saw this resolution, I thought, you know what, I think it's a good idea to, a worthy exercise, if you will, to always discuss different options that we have as a city. I think when it comes to the Nashua Public Library Board of Trustees, I think, you know, the word in the title of the building is public. And I think electing some officials is a worthy exercise to at least talk about and explore. And what I want to make sure that everyone understands what we're voting on tonight is we're simply saying it's okay, let's go to the next step and let's talk about it. This resolution doesn't automatically put it on the ballot for November of 25. It simply is the next step, as we're seeing right now with the Board of Health, is to have the public hearing and then have it refer to committee and then vote on it again. But this is simply just the next step in the process. And I would ask that you would support that next step. Thank you.
Welcome. Alderwoman Kelly?
Do you want to go first? Thank you. I'm not going to support this. I think that we are talking about whether it's necessary. There are 36 volunteer committees that go through my committee that are vetted and discussed, and I'm wondering why the library is the only one that we picked here. So we've heard from the trustees, we've heard from previous clerks. It would be additional time and energy in an elected official that doesn't necessarily need to be that way. We've done it this way for a very long time, and the committee does a good job of vetting the people who come before us. So I just don't see that it's necessary at this point. But I appreciate my colleagues for bringing it forward.
Alderman O'Brien?
Thank you, Madam President. I also am not going to support this, and I'll tell you why. Whenever we put anything on to make a charter amendment, basically we're giving up the authority of this particular board to make a decision. If the library is broken and the trustees are broken, then that's a reflection on us, and it's up to us to repair that. But to give it to an election, and we all went through elections. Now, some may say Alderman O'Brien is the best thing since sliced bread as an alderman. Some people may not believe that. So there's no guarantee of the quality that one would get with an election. However, with an appointment through the mayor's office, there is a guarantee. Now, when you have somebody that is protected by the charter, there would be some degree of difficulty if the person failed in their or lack of duty in failing into working out a solution. However, if they're appointed by the mayor, as all appointments are, you serve at the pleasure of the mayor and the Board of Aldermen. I am not willing to give up that particular right where they serve at the pleasure of the mayor and the Board of Aldermen. If there's something that is wrong with the library, then please put it in writing. We got a lot of concerned aldermen here that would love to work on this and to assist into fixing it. But however, to put it on a city charter, I think would just basically be too much for us to handle. Thank you.
Alderman Clemmons.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to correct my colleague, Alderman O'Brien. They're actually not appointed by the mayor. They're elected by this board with the current trustees, and that's how it works. So I just wanted to clarify that. However, having said that, I think that is the better process, and I will not be supporting this evening, because I believe that putting the library trustees on the ballot is going to produce unintended consequences that this city probably can avoid by not doing it. I do not want Nashua to turn into Florida, where we start banning books and we have people who have a political agenda and they want to run the library a certain way because they feel that their social presence is more important than somebody else's. The fact of the matter is, the library is a place that should be welcoming to all people. We should never make it a political thing, and I will never support something like this. Thank you.
Madam President, if I may, point of order, I would like to thank Alderman Clemmons and accept his correction. Thank you.
Alderman Tebow. Did you have your hand up? Must have saw Alderman Jettie, so Alderman Jettie.
Thank you. So I would like to move to refer this to the Personnel and Administrative Affairs Committee and the Library Board of Trustees, and I'd like to be heard on that motion.
Alderman Jettie.
So, this is another situation where, where a proposed, a charter change is being proposed, and, as we heard from Corporation Counsel when we talked about the charter change regarding the Board of Health, this board, by state law, first has to determine that it's necessary to move forward with proposing this amendment to the city charter. And it's a matter, for me, it's a matter of process. I think Corporation Counsel explained to us that we could refer this to committee before we vote on whether it's necessary. And I think it just makes sense that we would refer it to a committee, and that at that committee hearing, the sponsors of this resolution could come and explain, give their reasons for why they think this is a good idea. People who are in favor of it could also come. People who are against it could also, voice their concerns. But the committee would have an opportunity to vet this and make a recommendation to the full board, whether we should vote that it's necessary. Once that vote is taken, if it's not necessary, then it ends. But if this board, would then, if the committee recommends and this board adopts the recommendation, or however the board votes, that it is necessary, then it would be scheduled for public hearing. And, we have plenty of time. The next election is not for another year and a half. So there's no reason for us to rush through this. Tonight we heard, at least I heard, good points made on both sides of this issue. And I would like the opportunity, to explore this further, hear from people about whether or not it's necessary to propose this charter change. So that's why I think the better way of doing this, the better way of handling this is to refer it to the committee and the library board of trustees, and to hear that, what their recommendations are after a full discussion, and and then we can vote on whether it's necessary and proceed to the public hearing. So, thank you.
Welcome. Alderman Clemmons?
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, I'm not supporting this motion either. I don't really care to discuss this, to be perfectly honest with you. I think it's going to create animosity in the community. I think it's unnecessary, and therefore, for the reasons I've stated previously, I'm not supporting this motion either.
Alderman Tebow?
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, I'm not going to support this motion. I tend to agree with Alderwoman Kelly, who said, why this? So what I've heard from people in the chamber and citizens is, change, let's change it up. To Alderwoman Kelly's point, why not elect the health department? Why not elect zoning board? Police commission is one that got shot down a couple years ago. That was one that people were trying to make a change, and it got shot down, 2.5 years ago. So I never heard the why, like the underlying, what is wrong with the library today that requires us to change this process? I use the library all the time, and it seems to be working. So what is the why part of it? Like, there's got to be an underlying issue here, because we could take any board and say, well, let's start electing these boards, and then we'd have 30 boards on the ballot every time we're doing this, because I would like to do, I don't support the health one either. I'm not supporting that. I haven't supported it yet. I'm one of the few people, there's just a few of us that seem to be voting that one down. And I'm on that side of it too. I don't believe in changing that. I think it's good the way it is. So I'm very consistent in my not wanting to change these things without a very, very good specific reason other than just change. Because what I heard from the people that are on the Board of Trustees is that you may be losing expertise that it's important to run the library. And people that are in there now may not want to go through a campaign to try to win that from someone that may not have that expertise, but just wants to have some stake in the library. And so, and we have appointed things all the time. We appoint the fire commission. The fire commission, the chief gets appointed. The chief of police gets appointed. We don't have elections for that. So there's a lot of things we don't have elections for. So we could say, well, it's democratic, let's open up everything. You could say that. There's always people appointed somewhere in this, Tim Cummings appointed, right? So there's all these things that get appointed. We don't elect everyone. So I just, unless there's like, something is wrong with the library today where it's not working, I don't see the issue to change it, in my opinion.
Alderman Dowd?
Yes, I have a question. First of all, the item of voting to whether the original motion that was on the floor, is that, my first question, is that necessary before it goes anywhere else? Or was that added for some other reason? And if that's voted down, does that mean this is dead and goes no further?
I would have to defer to Corporation Counsel.
If you get to that motion, the motion to determine that it is necessary, and that motion does not pass, does not carry, this thing is over. Consideration of this charter change ends. It, however, can be referred to committee or whatever process this board wants before taking a vote on that question.
Okay, that answers my question. I'm not in favor of voting for either one of the motions. The original motion concerns me in that, too many people are trying to make us turn into a town. The cities were generated by the state for a reason, and the rules are a lot different than towns. And the other thing is that, again, bringing up that, if we make it elected, people who have to run for office, that's expensive. So you're not going to get people that are dedicated to the library that want to spend $5,000 to get elected to a job that's usually someone who's dedicated to the library and reading and that kind of thing. The other thing is that even though the city is supposed to be nonpartisan, it certainly is, all of our elections are partisan. And this would turn into a partisan election, and I don't think that belongs in the library, so I won't support either motion.
Alderman Sullivan.
Thank you. Just to briefly respond, I just want to bring everybody back to my comments. What we're doing tonight is just trying to find out if we want to have this discussion. I'm not interested in opening this up for debate. That's at a different time. So if we want to find out the why, vote yes on this. And then you can uncover what's going on. All we're asking is to take the next step in the process. I just want to remind everybody what's in front of us and what's on the table. Thanks.
Alderman Clemmons.
Thank you. Yeah, in response to the previous comments, I understand what's on the table. I'm not interested in having that conversation.
Further discussion?
Roll call.
Roll call has been requested. Okay.
On Alderman Jetties?
Yes.
On Alderman Jetty's motion to refer to personnel, the Personnel Administrative Affairs Committee and the Library Board of Trustees. That's the motion we're voting on. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
No.
Alderwoman Timmons.
No.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Govea.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
No.
Alderman Jetty.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
No.
Alderman Clee.
No.
Alderman Dowd.
No.
Alderwoman Kelly.
No.
Alderman Wilshire.
No.
Four yeas, 8 nays.
And that motion fails.
So, original
We
motion.
go back to the original.
Back to the
motion.
original motion. The original motion was by Alderman Govea to determine it's necessary to move forward with proposing an amendment to the city charter relative to electing the Library Board of Trustees by roll call.
Alderman O'Brien.
No.
Alderwoman Timmons.
No.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Govea.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
No.
Alderman Jetty.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
No.
Alderman Clee.
No.
Alderman Dowd.
No.
Alderwoman Kelly.
No.
Alderman Wilshire.
No.
4 yeas, 8 nays.
And that motion fails.
First reading of R-24-049, approving the cost items of sidebar agreements between the Nashua Board of Police Commissioners and the 5 Nashua Police Department unions regarding a police department recruiting incentive.
Additional sponsors. Alderman O'Brien. Alderman Thibodeau. Alderman Govea. Alderman Sullivan. Alderman Clemmons. Alderman Tebow. Alderman Clee. Alderman Dowd. Alderwoman Kelly. Given its first reading, I'll assign that to the Budget Review Committee.
First reading of R-24-050, authorizing the sale of a portion of the Veterans Memorial Parkway right-of-way.
Additional sponsors. Alderwoman Timmons. Alderman O'Brien. Alderman Dowd. Given its first reading, I'll assign that to the Committee on Infrastructure and the Planning Board.
First reading of R-24-051, relative to the acceptance and appropriation of grant funds pursuant to Contract Amendment Number 1 in the amount of $307,393 from the State of New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services into various public health and community services grant activities.
Additional sponsors, Alderman O'Brien, Alderwoman Timmons, Alderman Tebow, Alderman Clee, Alderman Dowd, Alderwoman Kelly, and myself. Given its first reading, I will assign that to the Human Affairs Committee. Without objection, I will suspend the rules to allow for a first reading of 2 resolutions that were received after the agenda was prepared.
First reading of R-24-052, relative to the supplemental appropriation of $500,000 of assigned fund balance into Department 128 Risk Management, account 89650, transferred to Property and Casualty Self-Insurance Fund.
Additional sponsors? Alderman O'Brien, Alderwoman Timmons, Alderman Clay, Alderman Dowd. Given its first reading, I'll assign that to the Budget Review Committee and schedule a special Board of Aldermen public hearing on Monday, May 6, 2024 at 7 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chamber.
First reading of R-24-053, authorizing the City of Nashua to enter into a master development agreement with Blaylock Holdings, LLC.
Additional sponsors, Alderman O'Brien, Alderman Clemmons, Alderman Tebow, Alderman Clee, Alderman Dowd, and myself. Given its first reading, I'll assign that to the Finance Committee. New business ordinances.
None.
Period for general public comment. I have first Beth Scare.
Hi, I'm Beth Scare, 111 East Hobart Street. I'm asking you, Mayor and Aldermen, to recognize the harm being done to women and children in our city. I'm asking you to stop promoting that it's safe for men to be in women's spaces in sports. Governor Sununu made a terrible mistake in 2018 when he signed the bill prohibiting discrimination based on gender identity into law. A large percentage of trans-identifying males, also known as trans women, are sexually attracted to women. They transition because they have a sexual fetish called autogynephilia. If a person has one sexual fetish, they are very likely to have other sexual fetishes. Nashua Ward 4 had a male state rep, Stacy Loughton, who identified as a woman, was sexually attracted to women, and who was charged with soliciting and distributing pornographic pictures taken of local toddlers. Should men with autogynephilia and other sexual fetishes, such as sexual attraction to children, be given access to women's and girls' restrooms and locker rooms? I've been told there's a man who puts on a woman's bathing suit and watches the women and girls undress in the locker room at the Nashua Y. Does he have a sexual fetish? I'm asking you to stop celebrating the fetishization of women by drag queens at the Pride Festival, and I'm asking you to stop exposing children to these sexualized performances. These performances are demeaning to women, and we all know that kids are not developmentally ready for it. I'm asking you to stop selling the lie to gender nonconforming kids and teens that they can change sex. This lie is promulgated at the Pride Festival and in books in the children's room at the Nashua Library and in our public schools. Parents are being scared into putting their kids on puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones and even having their healthy body parts removed. Parents are being blackmailed with the trans or die myth by medical professionals. Thankfully, detransitioners are going public with the harm they suffered as children, and now the first lawsuit has been filed against Dartmouth Health by a detransitioner here in New Hampshire. The mayor refused to let my husband fly the detrans awareness flag in front of Nashua City Hall. What's he afraid of? He can't stop the truth from coming out. I'm also thankful that the Nashua Library is carrying the books Time to Think by Hannah Barnes, Trans, When Ideology Meets Reality by Helen Joyce, and Tomboy, The Surprising History and Future of Girls Who Dare to Be Different by Lisa Selena Davis. These books challenge the belief that gender nonconforming children need medical transition. But there's a book missing, Irreversible Damage, The Transgender Craze Seducing Our Daughters, and I hope the National Library has not banned that book. Thank you.
Paula Johnson.
Good evening. My name is Paula Johnson. I live at 15 Westbourne Drive. 2 weeks ago, when I came up here to speak in the general public comment, I lost time because of someone who did not sign up prior to. And it says here very clearly, because I've got the NRO, speaker must sign up prior to the start of the meeting to indicate intent of speaking during public comment. My time was taken away. There was a little words back and forth. People from the audience were screaming, suspend the rules. A point of order should have been asked for in this meeting until everybody calmed down. When the woman left, she said to me, "You just killed more children because of your speaking." This had nothing to do with me. I signed up, and it was unfortunate what happened here 2 weeks ago. But tonight, I'm saying that 2 weeks ago, I had a neutral position what was going on out there in the world. But today, my position is, the sad thing is that kids in colleges, Jewish kids, are being accosted for no reason because of their religion right now, and it is a shame. We need to get along here, but we're not. These poor kids on campuses now, and I'm glad that I'm not a young child being Jewish and on a campus right now. Tonight is Passover, and I chose to be here. And I came in here and signed up at my time to speak. Also, I just want to say that Alderman Sullivan had a great Ward 9 meeting, although I'm not in Ward 9, and he allowed me to speak. But I want to know, where was some of the aldermen at large? 2 of them live in Ward 9. And in February, when we had the Ward 5 West Hollis Street corridor meeting, Alderman Clee showed up. She's in Ward 3. No alderman at large showed up. That's your job. You represent everybody in the city here, not just, I don't know, a ward? No, you're at large. That's what it's called, at large. And so I think it's shameful that you don't show up to these meetings, because you could be a big input in what's happening with the rest of the city, because that's who you represent, everybody in the city. It was a very interesting meeting, and also I just started doing my homework about elderly exempt and different cities and towns, what they get. Mayor, $54,000 for married and single doesn't work in the rest of the state. One amount. The IRS, when you're married, you pay one tax rate.
30 seconds.
And in single, you pay others. So I'm going to start doing my research on this, because there's a lot of elderly in the city that really deserve. I've paid 40 years on taxes on my home. And we might not qualify, but I'm sure there's other people in the city that could qualify. And it's about time we start taking a look at our senior citizens in this city. Thank you very much.
Anya Shams?
Aria Sham, sorry, I probably misspelled it on there. I am 38 Royal Crest Drive in Nashua, and thank you for inviting me to speak here. Ladies and gentlemen of the town board, today I come before you not bound by party lines or nationality, but as a global citizen deeply troubled by the ceaseless bloodshed in Gaza, concerned for the future of Palestinians in the region, concerned for peaceful Israelis looking for a place to call home. It's time for us to confront a harsh truth. As Americans, we are indirectly complicit in the atrocities being committed in the region. Our tax dollars are being funneled into weapons used liberally on civilian targets, perpetuating a cycle of violence that affects both Palestinians and Israelis. We cannot continue to stand idly by while our resources fuel the destruction of entire communities, without our consent, as the atrocities are being live-streamed for us all to see. Gaza is being starved and brutalized into extinction. We send weapons only to airdrop food. It's puzzling to say the least, and absolutely archaic, to be blunt. Having written my master's thesis a few miles away from the 5th largest concentration camp to ever exist, I've seen echoes of past tragedies in Gaza's plight. The phrase "never again" was born. It resonates deeply within all of us. Yet in the context of this conflict, "never again" has become a hollow mantra, reduced to mere slogans rather than a call to action. And to this end, we often ask ourselves, what would we do if we were alive during moments of historical tragedy? Would we stand up and fight for the victims? Right now, we are answering that question every day with our silence, our indifference, and our complicity. We cannot afford to remain passive when we make excuses for the deaths of 15,000 plus children as a result of collateral damage. We're only building a universe in which the lives of our children do not matter. Being innocent does not matter. Being a civilian does not matter. Being a good person does not matter. And I can guarantee you that universe looks much darker than the one here at Nashua, but it looks like Gaza City. So I implore us to reclaim the true spirit of "never again" by advocating for a unilateral ceasefire, We need an international journalist, monitors, and food aid let in to conduct thorough assessments on the ground with their safety guaranteed. We owe it to the countless lives lost in the future generations to break this cycle of violence and pave the way for lasting peace. Words that have been repeated for decades without any action. While I hope this board considers a symbolic ceasefire resolution, I also know that talk is cheap. I'm hoping the board will decide to establish a committee to focus on divestment, more specifically the identification of prevention of business and businesses with specific companies profiting off the deaths of tens of thousands of civilians. Thank you for your time, and free Palestine.
Nicholas Scalera.
Hello again, board. My name is Nick Scalera from 2 Paddington Place here in Nashua, and I'm here to speak about the need for Nashua to accept and pass a resolution for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza. Last meeting, many of you tried to silence our message by saying that you have as many constituents coming to you to not pass a ceasefire resolution. I don't think anyone here is trying to discount the fact of that. There's no question that there is a very vocal opposition to Palestinian humanity and Palestinian rights across our country and our world. But it's quite literally your job to take converging opinions and come to a conclusion. That is why you are elected, and that is why you serve in your positions. Furthermore, many of you made comments to the effect that we can keep coming, keep calling, keep emailing, but you won't do anything. That in and of itself is extremely anti-democratic. And from my point of view, it seems that many of you simply don't want to be aldermen. No one's forcing you to do this job, but if you are here, if you're going to do this job, then actually do it. Using opposition to a ceasefire resolution as a cudgel against those who are advocating for one, such as those here today, is not an answer to the issue. Staying silent in the face of oppression is siding with the oppressor. To quote the late Martin Luther King Jr. from his letter from a Birmingham jail, "First, I must confess that over the last few years, I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in the stride towards freedom is not the white citizen's counselor or the Ku Klux Klanner, but the white moderate who is more devoted to order than to justice, prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, and this is with my own emphasis, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I can't agree with your methods of direct action. There are voices that stood up against desegregation in the South. There are voices that stood up against the dismantling of apartheid in South Africa. You all sitting here today are conceding to those same voices who are standing up against the end of Israeli apartheid, genocide, and ethnic cleansing. Would you have stayed silent during Jim Crow? Would you have stayed silent while Mandela was in prison? Finally, I want to address the virtue signaling made by members of this board concerning anti-Semitism. Being anti-Zionist is not the same as being as anti-Semitic. On the contrary, believing that Jewish people are a monolith and they all revere Israel as infallible is, on its face, highly anti-Semitic. It only further emphasizes the erasure of anti-apartheid Jewish activists, many of whom were vocal during South African apartheid and continue to be vocal against Israeli apartheid. Countless Jewish activists have rallied around the Palestinian plight and for the history of Israel, including Albert Einstein, Jewish Israeli historians such as Avi Shlaim and Gabor Mate, and Holocaust historians like Norm Finkelstein and Amos Goldberg. To say that they are not really Jewish or merely self-hating Jews is virulently anti-Semitic. The largest constituency of pro-Israel sentiment in the United States is not Jewish people, but white evangelical Christians. Palestinian rights have nothing to do with Judaism, just like the dismantling of White Crow had nothing to do with anti-white racism. I pray that you all see the humanity of Palestinians. And for the record, while we have been sitting here for these past 2 hours, 14 Gazans have been slaughtered by munitions made in the United States with the complete backing of our government.
Time.
Think about those lives. Thank you.
David Scalera.
Good evening, board. My name is David Scalera, 2 Paddington Place. I'm a resident of Nashua for 20 years. I'm here today to once again call upon the Aldermen of Nashua to put forth debate and vote on a resolution calling for a permanent ceasefire of Israeli aggression in Palestine, and to also send a message to local, state, and national government representatives that Nashua does not support our country funding implicitly or explicitly the ongoing genocide in Palestine. I think it's cowardice that we still haven't heard from about 2/3 of this board as to your position on this topic. Silence is complicity, and that will not go unnoticed in the future. I also want to comment on the previous attempts to silence members of the community because of arbitrary rules in the charter that would have prevented them from speaking. As citizens, we are forced to listen to many of you go on and on just for the purpose of a soundbite, while you sit there and think of any reason to keep many of us from speaking, while you check your watches and wonder how quickly you can get out of here. Instead of coming up with rules that will prohibit people from speaking, perhaps be creative and think of ways to allow them to speak. One simple motion to suspend the rules, which you've done a few times tonight, could have allowed those who showed up late for religious observance purposes to speak. Instead of Corporation Counsel advising the board on reasons to limit democratic practices, perhaps he could have provided options fully within the law and parliamentary procedure to enhance the democratic practices. Now, in regards to what we really want to talk about, the overarching opinion from some that have shared their views on this topic have been that this type of resolution isn't relevant to local government. Not only is that just a horrible interpretation of our most representative form of government, you all, but I'm going to give you a reason why it's more than just relevant, it's your responsibility. I was unable to find on the city website the portfolio holdings of over the $100 million of investments that Nashua has, but I was able to find detailed information on the Nashua BMW retirement system pension. That pension that is funded by Nashua tax dollars and provides benefits to Nashua workers is currently approximately $52 million in assets under management. Are these investments relevant to Nashua? I think so. Are we aware that over 50% of this $52 million is invested into mutual funds managed by BlackRock?
1 minute.
For those that don't know, BlackRock is one of the largest money managers in the world. In fact, over $10 trillion in assets would make up the largest GDP country that isn't the US and China. I can tell you a lot of things about BlackRock if you want to hear them. They're one of the largest funders and investors in corporate fossil fuels, gun manufacturers, weapons contractors. They made the top list of the wall of shame by corporate actions,
30 seconds.
focusing on climate justice. Finally, beyond that, the BlackRock funds that the pension invests in, specifically, one of the funds is a top shareholder, one of the top 5 shareholders in Elbit Systems. Why is Elbit Systems bad? I can talk to you a lot about that. They're the ones who drop 2,000-pound bombs on dense villages in Gaza. They're the ones who dropped a 450 drone attack, 3 vehicles of humanitarian organization, World Central Kitchen. We all heard about that. So what you're doing here is not just driving.
Your time is up, sir. Thank you. Donnell Thomas?
Hi, my name is Donnell Thomas. I'm a proud transgender woman. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a resident of Concord, New Hampshire, and I'm a socialist. I came here today to urge you to declare a ceasefire in Gaza because the climate of racism and Islamophobia in America, which has spiked massively in the wake of 9/11 over 20 years ago, and bigotry and hatred never left, faded into the background and calls for a genocidal war on the Palestinians, which has also resulted in increased Islamophobia in New England. On November 25th, 2023, 3 Palestinian college students were shot in Burlington, Vermont, the capital of New Hampshire's sister state. Earlier tonight, a Nashua resident referenced demographics shifting in this community. And as we know, the makeup of America is changing. There are 2 Islamic societies in your beautiful city. But the working and oppressed people of Nashua will struggle under the same system of imperialism abroad and exploitation at home. I urge you in the name of creating a welcoming, just society for all, at the start of that was mentioned at the start of this meeting, that the board has a high honor and duty. You may say the declaration of a ceasefire would threaten the Jewish community. This is untrue because Israel's genocide of the Palestinians is a Zionist project. Judaism and Zionism are not the same thing. Zionism is an extension of American colonialism and British colonialism. It was started in the 1800s, and if you wanted more information on that, you could look up the Balfour Declaration made by Lord Balfour, who was a British Anglo-Saxon man, not Jewish. I have worked closely with many of my proud Jewish neighbors to fight Israel's genocide of the Palestinian people, which has been aided and abetted by the U.S. military-industrial complex. I also want to let you know that we need to come together as a community and that Jewish and Muslim people can live in peace. It's imperialism, which the Russian Soviet leader Vladimir Lenin called imperialism, the highest form of capitalism. We are all connected. None of us are free until all of us are free, in Nashua, Concord, and across the world. Please adopt an ad hoc ceasefire resolution tonight, and please include a resolution binding clause to never fund the genocidal apartheid regime in Israel.
30 seconds.
Vanessa Hadel?
Hello, my name is Vanessa Haydell, and I'm a Nashville resident at 2 Clock Tower Place, apartment 308. I am here today to ask the City of Nashville to pass a ceasefire resolution for the inhabitants of the Gaza Strip in Palestine. I also ask the city to establish a committee to identify, divest from, and prevent business with companies that profit off of the genocide against Palestinians. According to NPR.org, 47.3% of the population of Gaza are under the age of 18. According to United Nations, over 12,300 children have been killed in the conflict over the past 4 months, compared to 12,193 globally between 2019 to 2022. We need to protect these children. Let us be on the right side of history today by standing up for Israel and saying enough is enough. Thank you.
Thank you. James Taper? I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong.
Oh, no, you got it right. Well, I'm James Taper. I reside at 7 Amherst Terrace, Nashua, New Hampshire. I work here in downtown Nashua. I work at the Rural Cafes down the street from here. I'm here to ask the council to strongly, sorry. I strongly urge the city to pass a ceasefire resolution, a unilateral ceasefire resolution, and then divest from companies who profit from the genocide. And I have nothing more to say than to, if you have a transcript or recording of the folks who've spoken before me, please listen to that again. I can't emphasize enough how important that information is and just how well they spoke. Please, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Colby Labrie?
How you doing? My name's Colby Labrie. I live at 106 Gilson Road. I'm here tonight to ask you to adopt our ceasefire resolution. I've become very weary over the past 6 months of waking up and checking my phone, only to see flattened neighborhoods, fatally wounded and orphaned children, and discoveries of mass graves. General disregard for international law, a term that seems hollow now. 34,637 is the latest count, probably more. I think you just checked 14 more. These are human beings that have been murdered, largely funded by the U.S. They're no different than those of us standing in this room with the exception of where they happen to be born. The genocide in Palestine is a Nashua issue. Where our tax dollars go is our business. I'm aware that this is city government and have no illusion that Nashua is going to change the world. I would prefer not to be here. Unfortunately, we have no direct connection to the ones making the final decisions on foreign policy, and we couldn't get their attention even if we did. What we do have is you. Our phone calls and emails to our senators and representatives have been largely ignored. They pretend like those opposed to the genocide don't exist in their state and that we're the minority and that we don't represent the interests of New Hampshire. I hope that by you passing a resolution, we are able to send a message to those who have the power to take action and make changes. And being one of the largest cities in the state, it's my hope that the message sticks. Thank you for your time.
Angelique Rodriguez?
Hello. My name is Angelique Rodriguez. I'm from Concord, New Hampshire. As this genocide rages on and continues to approach its apex, we are witnessing an extremely specific type of genocide, one that persistently targets mothers, their unborn babies, and their innocent children in order to annihilate generations and prevent further lineage. This is a genocide waged through subjugation and dehumanization of the Palestinian people. I sit here and I look at all of you. You're a body of institutionalized authority that has the power to set forth a ceasefire resolution. I ask you for one moment to hear what I'm about to say. Look up from your phones if you're looking at them. Really hear me. Imagine your beautiful child as they were. They run to you with arms wide open. They embrace you as if you are all they have, because in a way, you are. As they embrace you, you smell the warm scent that you have known since they entered the world and became an extension of you. You feel their warmth, you feel their warm hands around your body as they emit love that is unconditionally absorbed by you. Know that 19,000 children and counting will not be able to give and receive these feelings to and from their own mothers because their mothers have been slaughtered. Know that the most recent mass grave found held almost 300 women, children, and men. This was an organized execution. Children were found with their hands tied behind their back, skin removed from their bodies, and even their organs missing. 50 Google employees have either resigned or have been terminated from their jobs for speaking up on this issue. Students have been suspended and evicted. Professors have lost their jobs, and the list goes on. So I look to all of you, and I ask rhetorically, why did you seek this position? Was it for power, or was it for change? I pray that in time, when your children grow, if you have smaller children, you will be able to tell them that you stood on the right side of history, that you stood for just what America claims to stand for: freedom, justice, and liberation. Except this time, not just for America, but for all of mankind. Thank you, and as always, free Palestine, ceasefire now.
Angelique, did I have your address as 147.5 North State Street, Concord?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. Next, we have Bradley Conway.
Good evening to the board. My name is Bradley Conway. Today I'll talk a little bit about my family history. My grandparents, on my mom's side, Dick and Annette Seymour, were always my connection to Nashua. They went to high school together at the Elm Street School. My grandmother worked as a seamstress at Miller's for 30 years before it became Alex Shoes and eventually the Arts Center. My grandfather worked at a shoe factory in the Mill Building on Canal Street over by Bob's Pizza, where his father was the foreman. He told me that when he joined the Navy, all the women in the factory came and gave him bananas so that he could weigh enough to enlist. The Seymour family has produced many a fine leader here in Nashua. In Gaza, every day that passes is an unspeakable catastrophe for real people whose lives matter as much as yours or mine. Residents of Nashua suffer with them. Residents of Nashua will persist until the city takes meaningful action. Last week, the city of Dover, New Hampshire, passed a ceasefire resolution almost unanimously, and I don't understand why it's taken the city of Nashua so long to act. Clearly, it's within the power of the city to acknowledge that killing innocent people is bad, like it did only 3 weeks after Russia invaded Ukraine. Drafting a ceasefire resolution is so easy to do, both morally and logistically. But so far, the board has expended more energy to silence and discriminate against its constituents than to welcome them or take them seriously. Heaven forbid that if the city of Nashua were to say that the killing of innocent people is bad, if those people are brown-skinned. The genocide of Gaza will be the defining issue of our generation, and the city of Nashua would be well advised to take a few moments to deliberate about it. If I may insist, here's what I think you should do. I appeal to every alderman, please make a motion tonight to resolve that the city of Nashua calls for an immediate permanent ceasefire, a release of all hostages and prisoners on both sides, for the provision of life-saving humanitarian aid to Gaza, and for the U.S. to stop arming Israel. You could then vote on the motion, and if passed, you could ask another committee to draft a resolution that would be agreeable to the city's lawyers. Universities around the country are blazing the trail for the city of Nashua to follow. Ceasefire is the main reason we're here tonight, because we want to see the city take a moral stance against genocide, but we're also asking the city to take a financial stance against genocide by divesting from companies who are profiting from it. Back in March, UNH passed a divestment resolution through the graduate student government. Last week, Harvard Law School and Harvard Divinity School divested.
30 seconds.
Yesterday, Columbia University. Today, Cornell. This movement has momentum. It's in that spirit that we come before you today with the hopes that you'll acknowledge your unique responsibility as elected officials who have the power to make official statements and move money around in order to help shape a better world for the constituents, for the world in which your constituents live. Thank you.
Our last speaker is Peter Mancara.
Thank you for your time, folks. I'd written something, but everyone here is just so much smarter than me and more eloquent, so I'm just going to go off the cuff and keep it pretty short. I want to say first thing, I'm really proud and quite frankly amazed at how many people, especially young people, made it out here and in support of this ceasefire. And I'm going to sound like an old curmudgeon here, waddling up here with a neck brace and grays in my beard. I swear I'm not that old. But in my day, you'd be kicked out of class and sent to a guidance counselor for even merely suggesting that the Palestinians deserve dignity or sovereignty. So I'm glad to see the times are changing. That being said, I've been struggling with finding, meaning or usefulness in a resolution like this from little old Nashua, and the truth is that passing a ceasefire resolution would not end the war. It wouldn't end the genocide on the people of Gaza. It wouldn't end the humiliation and torture that the Palestinian people are going through. But I was rereading a book by Professor Norman Finkelstein recently, and I came across a passage in the introduction that I'm going to read for you, and it reminded me why it is important and why we are here, and I'd like you to listen. I'd like you to also keep in mind that this was written in 2016, long before the events of October 7th. That exhibits that this has been going on a long time. What has befallen Gaza is a human-made human disaster. In its protractedness and in its starkness, in its unfolding not in the fog of war or in the obscurity of remoteness, but in broad daylight and full sight, in the complicity of so many, not just via acts of commission, but also and especially of omission. It is moreover a distinctly evil crime. It's that last part that makes it important that we're here and important that Nashua does pass this ceasefire resolution as well as divestment. It's the omission part, because even though we might be a tiny little blip in the span of things going on, we can't commit that very evil crime of omission, because it is
30 seconds.
A crime that is a global crime. And as a kid growing up with a Jewish mom and Jewish grandma, like any of you have, you've heard never again over and over again. And never again means for everybody, not just us. So I was going to wish Ms. Johnson a happy Passover, but it looks like she ran out. But yeah, happy Passover, free Palestine, free Gaza, and I hope you do pass this resolution.
Remarks by members of the board. I'll start over here tonight. Alderwoman Kelly.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to remark on the sustainability fair that we held. The second annual was at the library, was very well attended. It was nice to walk through the sustainability plan with so many people who are really interested in what we're doing as a city. Also was able to stop by Arbor Day, where our Nashua South Club was putting in trees. They were very grateful to have DPW's help this time. Apparently last year they dug all those holes themselves. So nice couple of events in honor of Earth Day. Thank you.
Alderman Clay.
Thank you, Madam President. I know we've been here a while, and I apologize because I am going to be wordy. I was quiet most of the meeting, though. I want to thank the Nashua Historical Society for coming out today and giving this presentation and all that they're doing and working and striving for. But I really want to take the time to highlight two employees of the city. The Lions Club did a Employee of the Year for the Board of Health, and Lisa Vasquez was highlighted from the Board of Health. I asked Director Bagley if she could send me her speech, and I while it isn't that long, I'm not going to read it all, but one of the things that Lisa has done is she has shepherded and been part of working with our Nashua PD to create a bridge with the behavioral health. Having someone other than the police having to try to work with the mental health of someone who is having a crisis. and she has bridged that gap. I know the Nashua PD are very happy that she has become part of that as well. And she accompanies the police in these types of situations. She then does the health calls and follow-up afterwards. And Director Bagley spoke so wonderfully about her, and it was really nice to see her at the Lions Club meeting and to receive this award. The second employee that, no lesser of an employee, but that was mentioned was from Public Works, and his name is Matthew Morrow. And some of the stories about Matthew made me smile, because Matthew drives one of our trash trucks. And when he goes around to the different neighborhoods, there are kids that actually sit there and wait for him to go by. They can't wait to see him as he's picking up the trash, and he takes the time to stop, say hi, and there's a lot of really good interaction, and these kids truly like it. He also is, as was pointed out, one of the first ones to jump on another shift if something has to happen. So when the plow trucks have to happen, he volunteers. He does all the extra work and so on. He got his CDL, went so that he could do these trucks. He went and did it on his own. He volunteers for touch-a-truck events and wings. But one of the most amazing things about Matthew that really made me smile was there was a line that was used, he keeps his truck so clean, and we're talking about his trash truck. So clean you could eat off the floor. I don't recommend it, but that was the comment that had been made. It means so much to him, and he refers to it as his truck, that when there was some rust happening on it, he actually went and got the proper paint, tint, and so on, and he touches it up, and he washes it, and he takes care of it because it's his truck. This is a city employee that is truly taking to heart the importance of our city equipment and so on. And so there are so many more things that I could say about both of these people, but it was really wonderful to see it. And I know we have so many wonderful people, more than just these two, but I want to congratulate Matthew Morrow and Lisa Vasquez for that awards that they got. So thank you.
On this side? No? Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you. I, too, would like to say happy Passover to our Jewish community and my friends and everything else. And that's it.
Committee announcements.
Tomorrow night, we have an infrastructure meeting. All are welcome to attend. It's one heck of a time anyway, so please join us.
Alderwoman Timmons.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. The Cultural Connection meet tomorrow at 12 o'clock upstairs in the auditorium.
Anyone else over here? No? Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to make the motion that the April 23rd, 2024 meeting of the Board of Aldermen so be adjourned.
Motion is to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 9:18 p.m. Thank you, everyone.